It may be remembered for a long time and mark a turning point in an already testy relationship across the Pacific.
North Korea best not make any more threats to the United States. They will be met with fire and fury like the world has never seen.
Now lawmakers decide where to line up on the growing threat from North Korea and what the future may hold.
You don't want rhetoric to suddenly escalate where it turns into action.
It leaves you with one horrifying option, and that is a strike, a military strike to take out their capability to launch. And that might be the only option left to the president.
Bill Nelson and Marco Rubio expand on their reaction to nuclear weapons in Pyongyang. Plus, Rubio explains his bipartisan efforts in the Senate to help veterans. Then we talk about health care and tax reform and the impact in the Sunshine State on This Week in Jacksonville. And welcome on this Sunday morning. August means recess for federal lawmakers and a chance to get answers for you on questions that you have of your elected legislators. This morning, we're joined by U.S. Senator Marco Rubio. Senator Rubio, I wanted to start by talking about North Korea. This is something where even this week we've heard President Trump saying some things like fire and fury if. This situation seems to be of utmost concern and priority for folks right now.
Right. So first of all, and there's a lot of media buzz around what the president said. I don't really think that's a big deal, what he said at the end of the day, because it's not like Kim Jong-un is going to behave better if the president had been nicer. Bottom line is Kim Jong-un believes that the only way he can guarantee he's going to be in power for the rest of his life is if he possesses a nuclear weapon and the ability to attack the United States. It's his insurance policy. That is an intolerable outcome for us. We cannot live in a world where a lunatic, an alcoholic, a guy who's got drug problems, a very, problematic guy like Kim Jong-un possesses nuclear weapons and the ability to hit the United States. We can't allow it. So the question is, how do you deal with it? People have tried everything, sanctions. Well, they don't have an economy. So after a certain point, all you can do with sanctions is delay the program by denying them access to funds. But the others, people say China. I think China can do a lot, and they could do more. But at the end of the day, I believe Kim Jong-un, this is about survival, he's willing to take on China. It leaves you with one horrifying option, and that is a strike, a military strike to take out their capability to launch. And that might be the only option left to the president. That's not an easy option.
It's chilling, yeah.
Well, that would trigger probably a non-nuclear response on his part against South Korea. Hundreds of thousands of people could die. That would then trigger a response back. It would probably be the end of Kim Jong-un, certainly his death and the elimination of his regime. But it would also mean hundreds of thousands of dead people and even potentially a nuclear exchange. So we got to think carefully through it. You want to avoid that outcome at all costs. But as bad as that outcome is, the worst outcome is allowing him to threaten the world with these weapons in the hands of a very unstable human being who at any point could use it or proliferate it, sell it to other people.
So, Senator, I heard someone even speculate, hey, the way the president spoke in this response, in this fire and fury comment, is the way that Kim Jong-un speaks as well. So maybe that's the right way?
It might be, but also, and it could be. I mean, this is not a, this is a unique person over there in North Korea. But I would also say that it doesn't matter. It's not like diplomatic language works with this guy. He wants the world to accept him. What he wants the world to say is, it's okay for you to have nuclear weapons. We accept it. And it's okay for you to have intercontinental missiles that can hit the United States. We accept it. He wants to be accepted so that he can remain in power forever. That's what he wants. And we're not prepared to accept that, and we shouldn't be. And the result is the standoff that we now face. As far as the president's rhetoric, look, Kim Jong-un has to know this. As crazy as he might be, he has to know that the day he attacks America is the last day of his life and the last day of his regime. He knew that before the president said it. He certainly knows it now.
Wow. Okay. Secretary Tillerson has said, hey, everybody, you can sleep easy, basically saying that this is not suddenly going to escalate into something. But I think a lot of people are worried. Should we be?
Well, I don't, at the end of the day, believe Kim Jong-un would preliminarily strike against the United States. He knows that any attack against America, or even an attack against South Korea of any significance, would lead to an overwhelming response on behalf of South Korea and the United States. That would probably be the end of his life and the end of his regime. He knows that. He has to know that. And so I don't think he's going to, tomorrow morning, attack us, because it would be like committing suicide. I'm more concerned about 5, 10, 20 years from now, and more importantly, I'm concerned about what happens if he begins to proliferate this. What happens if he begins to sell missiles and bombs, or at least the technology, to others who want to possess the same thing? That's a big concern.
Is this the Cuban Missile Crisis of our era?
It's worse in the sense that at least the Russians and the Soviets didn't necessarily want to die. They understood and they wanted to avoid a world war. and they looked for a way to get out. And Kennedy was able to position it in such a way that allowed them to escape that conflict while being able to save face. This is very different. There's no Politburo in North Korea. It's one person. And it's a guy who's in his late 30s who has to figure out a way to survive in power for 50 more years. And he thinks if he doesn't have nuclear weapons, he's going to wind up like Gaddafi, like Saddam Hussein, in a cage or dead, or both. And for him, nuclear weapons are the ultimate insurance policy. So in many ways, it's trickier.
And we're also hearing from Florida's other U.S. Senator, Bill Nelson. We spoke with him through our sister station in Orlando this week, getting his reaction on the climbing tensions over North Korea.
I am very concerned that we are getting to a point of rhetoric being so high-pitched and shrill, not only from our government, but from the leader of the North Korean government, that what we need to do is just let everything calm down a little bit. You don't want rhetoric to suddenly escalate where it turns into action. If action is needed, and there is no easy solution to the North Korean problem, either you let them build it and do nothing, or you go to war, and that is an unpalatable alternative with all of the rockets trained from North Korea on Seoul, Korea, a city of 21 million people. Or, number three, you negotiate some kind of stand down by the North Koreans. Thus far, we have seen no encouraging sign that they're willing to negotiate. This is why we want to get China involved, because China has the leverage of food and fuel on North Korea.
And you heard me ask Senator Rubio about the Cold War comparison and the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962. Well, Senator Nelson was 20 years old at the time, pursuing his bachelor's degree first at Florida, then at Yale.
It was when we were right coming to the point of a nuclear war with the Soviet Union. And let's take a page from the history books. President Kennedy decided to give some face saving to Nikita Khrushchev, the leader of the Soviet Union. And they worked out a plan and negotiated it. And then those Soviet ships with all the missiles on them suddenly turned around and went back to the Soviet Union. And nuclear war was averted. But it had become very, very close in 1962. Let's hope that we don't get anywhere close to that this time.
And several analysts believe North Korea is not as likely to launch nuclear weapons against America as it is to maybe sell atomic weapons to potential terrorists. Now, North Korea this week was responding to President Trump's tough talk, and really they started things as pushback to new sanctions from the United Nations. In North Korea's threats, saying that they could strike the American territory of Guam. Guam's governor said they're almost used to this and admits that while there is concern and fear, there's also a general calm there, understanding that this is not the first time they've been threatened. Still, that governor wants people to understand the stakes in a potential conflict with North Korea.
If there was to be conflict in this region, understand that there is an archipelago 600 miles long called the Marianas that encompasses 2 U.S. territories, Guam and the Commonwealth of Northern Marianas. If there was to be conflict, and that battle was to occur over there, not only do we endanger the lives of tens of thousands of military and their dependents, and I think the media has been very clear on those numbers, but you're also talking over 200,000 American citizens, civilians, that will be caught in the crosshairs.
All right, so for the time being, we'll wrap up our conversation on North Korea and hear more from Senator Rubio in a moment. Now, one of our recurring segments this summer is about passing a civics test just like applicants to become American citizens take. There are 100 civics questions on the naturalization test, and so here is just one of them. What do we call the first 10 amendments to the Constitution? Answer that, and I'll give you bonus credit if you know which one of the framers of the Constitution wrote these and when they were ratified. All right, so that answer is coming up in a little bit. Senator Rubio, he stays with us and addresses advances for veterans. That's next on This Week in Jacksonville.
It's the final days of Mattress Firm's coolest sleep sale ever. Plus, while supplies last, don't miss your final chance to get a free Yeti. Hampton and Rhodes Pillow Top Queen mattresses for just $209.99. Only at Mattress Firm.
Welcome to Dick Gore's RV World.
Come by and see us in Jacksonville off of I-95 at the airport exit.
And you'll find out why everyone shops and buys their RV at Dick Gore's RV World.
And remember, if you don't shop us, we both lose.
Right here, Dad.
The Infiniti QX60. Impressive performance and seating for 7. Lease the Infiniti QX60 for $369 a month. Visit your local Infiniti retailer.
I'll drop and speak a child. Take the weather in your heart and away from on your tongue. The dreams I never met. Those wishes were.
It isn't just about vision. It's about care. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
How is affordable dentures and implants so much less expensive?
It's all they do, so they're amazing.
But who has time for all that?
Everybody. They made these while we waited. Took one day.
They'll treat me okay?
Like family.
I can't believe I'm doing this. We should have done it years ago.
For affordable dentures, implants, and extractions, call 1-800-DENTURE today. One call and one day can change your tomorrow.
When we say consultations are free, we mean it. It doesn't cost a thing, regardless of whether you hire us or not. We will take all the time that you need and make sure that you make the right decisions going forward.
Harrow and Harrow. Don't settle for less than you deserve.
Every morning, you need the weather. And you told us you love meteorologist Richard Nunn.
This self-proclaimed all-American nerd.
Wait, that's me? Sure, he can be pretty crazy. But when severe weather's on the way, he pinpoints it hour by hour.
Richard's not afraid to challenge national forecast models, so you get a truly local forecast.
The Morning Show on Channel 4 makes mornings happen.
Is Richard really that crazy?
You're watching This Week in Jacksonville with Kent Justice.
And we're talking this morning with U.S. Senator Marco Rubio from Florida and just finished discussing that threat from North Korea. Possible that we're going to be putting American servicemen and women, their lives on the line and all this. Let's talk about veterans for a minute. Let's talk about some of the progress that you and your office have made, the Senate and Congress as a whole has made. Let's talk about veterans, the VA accountability. This was your bill, and it was bipartisan in nature. You've got high hopes for what this is going to do.
Yeah, so first of all, let me just tell you, it tells you about the times we live in. Because it was bipartisan and because it happened, it got very little coverage. A little bit of mention, but not a lot of coverage. That's fine. But there are things happening, and this is meaningful. I had somebody tell me the other day in an interview, well, but nothing meaningful. This is very meaningful. If you're a veteran who has to wait for a long period of time to receive the care that you deserve and that we owe you, and the people who are supposed to be giving it to you are not doing a good job and don't care because they can't be fired, it's meaningful. And this law gives the Secretary the power to remove people who are not doing a good job. And that would not have passed unless we had Democrats on board, and we did. And it passed, and I'm very pleased that we finally got it done after years of fighting us on it. We had the VA choice bill that was reauthorized. Embedded in that are 8 or 9 facilities for the state of Florida, including 2 in the Northeast and a couple others, including here in this community, that are going to provide more options for veterans to be able to go to VA facilities to receive care. The GI Bill was reformed so that now you no longer have that artificial period of time that you need to use. For your whole life, you can go back and use this. So you're 45 years old, you've been out of service for 20, 25 years, you decide you want to go back to school.
Not too late.
It's not too late. And in fact, in the 21st century, a lot of people are going to have to do that because your job is replaced by a robot or a machine. You have to go out and acquire skills to be competitive in the new economy. You have to pay for school. Why should you lose your GI Bill because you didn't use it, 10 years ago?
Yeah, and I think one of the things that people are excited about in terms of some of those things is that the VA system may be getting closer to fixed. It's not completely fixed yet, is it?
Yeah, it's not. And in Florida, we have about 750, 800,000 people who use the VA system, probably the third, second largest in the country. It has problems. It's a big system. It needs a lot of work. But now, for the first time, we can fire people that aren't doing a good job. Veterans will have more facilities and more choices. And it's certainly on a good path, not a perfect one. It'll never be perfect, but we want to make it better. The one looming crisis now for Florida, I think, is veteran nursing homes. We're going to have a real need for those as the Korean War, even Vietnam War era veterans begin to retire and require more and more intense care. We don't have enough facilities, and we're working on that.
Well, and we know that even beyond the veteran community, our state of Florida, we've got lots of folks who are growing older and living longer and having more of those medical issues and need that kind of care.
Especially as you get into some of the age-related dementia, Alzheimer's, or other debilitating conditions, as it becomes impossible to care for them at home, you need to have facilities that people can receive care. And for veterans, a lot of them, the ideal place would be a VA facility. So that's the next step that we want to work on improving.
And Democrats have said that they think the Affordable Care Act needs improving. Republicans haven't been able to get their one-sided plan through the Senate. So Mr. Rubio's thoughts on whether that issue is dead, next on This Week in Jacksonville.
It's the flooring sale you've been waiting for. Empire Today's half-price sale. Get $2,400 of flooring for $1,200, $5,200 for an amazing $2,600. That's half the price of your entire purchase. Shop for carpet, hardwood, tile, vinyl, and laminate right from home and have it professionally installed. Don't miss Empire's half-price sale. Schedule now.
800-588-2300 Empire.
Today. Ready, Tim? Let's do this. Was that Mike? That's Harry. The car stopped for me.
And that's automatic emergency braking.
It's Nissan's bottom line sales event. Lease the Rogue family starting at just $159 per month, or save up to $10,760 on select models.
Bottom line, I still can't touch you.
I'll take it.
Gloria always went big. So we helped her plan a memorial service that no one would soon forget. This one's for you, Gloria. Only a Dignity Memorial professional can celebrate a life like no other. Find out how at dignityjacksonville.com.
It's the final days of Mattress Firm's coolest sleep sale ever. Plus, while supplies last, don't miss your final chance to get a free Yeti. Get the new Serta iComfort Temp Touch gel-infused for cooling comfort, only $37 a month. Serta Memory Foam Queen mattresses, just $499.99. And get the exclusive Beauty Rest Black Memory Foam with black ice, interest-free for 6 years. Plus, get a free Yeti cooler with your purchase, only at Mattress Firm.
You were so right about that sale at America's Best.
Designer frames?
2 pairs from Karen Millen and Sofia Vergara. It's a great deal. 2 pairs and a free eye exam starting at $69.95.
You just pick them up?
Well, I did stop for coffee first.
Bet you stopped for coffee after, too, didn't you?
Ah! So cute!
Wow. You realize owls have sensitive hearing.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Ah! So cute!
The designer sales event, it's not just a better deal. It's America's Best. Hurry, designer sale ends soon.
And here's the answer to our U.S. citizenship quiz. What do we call the first 10 amendments to the Constitution? They are the Bill of Rights, the list of individual freedoms and limits on the government. James Madison wrote them, and the Bill of Rights was ratified in 1791. Let's talk then about health care. Yeah. You even mentioned last week, you were on our morning show, and you mentioned, hey, I ran on repeal and replace. We're going to get that done. How does that happen? A lot of people have said because it didn't pass in the Senate that it's a dead issue right now. Where does it stand?
It's not dead. The thing is this. In order to do it with 51 votes, or 50 votes on the vice president, we have to do it through a process called reconciliation, which is tied to a budget. So the reconciliation for 2016-17 expires at the end of September. And we were hoping to use that so we could use the 18-19 one, or the 17-18 budget to do taxes. There is a chance that we could swap it, that we could do taxes now in September using the 17-18 and then use next year's for health care. But we got to deal with it. Part of the problem we have in this debate with Obamacare is people are not getting the truth. They're disingenuous and somehow this is covered. This has nothing to do with Medicare. It largely does not impact, if you get your health coverage from your job, this probably doesn't impact you. If you're getting it from the VA, it doesn't impact you. If you get it from Medicare, it doesn't impact you. We're talking about two things: Medicaid, which Florida already operates on a waiver. This bill would have meant more money for Florida, actually, and the individual market, people that don't get it from any of these other four places and have to go out and buy it on their own. And that's the part that's really broken. You're going to see premiums go up again this year, and they're going to continue to go up. And as they go up, you're going to have less and less healthy and younger people buying individual coverage, more and more premium increases. That has to be fixed. That has to be addressed. That has to be replaced. And that's why this issue is not going to go away.
Well, so many Democrats that I've spoken with said, hey, we admit the ACA, the Affordable Care Act, is not perfect and it needs some adjustments. So doesn't that mean that there's room for compromise here?
There would, but they're going to have to abandon things like the mandate, which they refuse to abandon. They're going to have to abandon the idea that we're going to limit competition or limit choices. Now, they want every insurance plan to look the exact same way. Look, if you're a 31-year-old healthy person, single, no children, you probably are willing to buy a catastrophic hospitalization plan and self-insure on the front end with a health savings account, because that's a lot better than having a plan that costs $300-400 a month that you never use and has a $10,000 deductible, which you'll never meet. So in essence, you're only covered on paper. According to Obamacare and according to many in the Democratic Party, that's not good enough. They want everyone to have full coverage, even if not everyone wants to pay for full coverage. That's problem number one, and it's a serious one. And the other is, and this is not being covered enough, the base, the energy behind the indivisible movement, the energy in the Democratic Party is the Bernie Sanders voter. Okay? They have every right to participate in American politics. I know Bernie Sanders personally, nice guy, but he's a socialist. He calls himself that. He wants single payer. He wants every American to get their insurance from the government. And even Democrats, I think that's a bad idea, are afraid to say it publicly because they're afraid to be, primaried or something. We had a vote on single payer. We put Bernie Sanders' bill up for a vote, and the Democrats voted present. They didn't even vote no on it, and they didn't even vote yes. That tells you how constrained they are in their ability to work with us. They say they want to work with us, but they really can't, because what their base wants is a radical, expensive, single-payer system that even they know is a bad idea, but politically they can't say it because they're afraid to be taken out by their base.
When Senator John McCain returned to the Senate just to vote and did not stay with Republicans, he voted the other way on that bill. Was that a betrayal of sorts?
Well, I don't use those terms. John voted the way he thought he wanted to vote. An hour earlier he was for it, and then something happened in the interim, and he came back. So about 30 minutes before the vote, I knew how he was going to vote. I always laugh when I see these reports. Rubio was looking on with a shocked face. I wasn't shocked. I knew exactly what he was going to do. He said it. He told us 30 minutes before. Multiple people knew it. So, John will have to answer for why he voted that way. He kept saying that he wanted it to go through regular order, meaning he wanted the bill to go through committee and the like, which is the ideal way to get there. This is not a new issue, though. I mean, we've been debating it for a long time. The problem is, if you look at that committee, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, they want single payer. They're never going to vote for a bill that isn't that. And this is an emerging issue that we got to deal with right away. So I have tremendous respect for John's service to our country. Obviously, our prayers are with him as he struggles with this latest challenge in his life. He voted what he thought was the right way forward. I think a couple other people I wish had changed their votes, but it is where it is. We're going to keep working on it. I know that when I ran for re-election and I ran for election, I told people this is what I was for. I don't know why anybody would be surprised that I support repeal and replace. That's what I said I was for. For me not to do that should be shocking.
Yeah. Maybe final topic, and we'll wrap up from here, but I know that you mentioned tax reform. Is that something that you think is doable in the remaining balance of this calendar year, I suppose?
Well, first of all, I think it has to happen. A lot of the growth that we're seeing, a lot of the good economic news that we're getting is based on the fact that our economy has taken it for granted. In essence, a lot of the investment that you're seeing activity is because after the election, people in the business community assumed with a Republican president and a Republican Congress, they're going to cut taxes and reduce regulations. If we don't do that, you're going to see some of these gains be reversed and perhaps go in the opposite direction. So it has to happen. The area of tax reform, I'm supportive of. I don't support the border adjustment tax, but I am supportive of things, simplifying the code, lowering it for people, lowering it for business so we get more investment. The part I'm focused on, and I'm working with the White House and Ivanka Trump on, is the child tax credit. I campaigned for president on that too. And that is...
You've said that it hasn't gone up since it was instituted a couple decades ago.
If you're watching this program and you're raising kids, you know for a fact how expensive it is to raise children in the 21st century. The tax credit hasn't grown, but the costs of raising children have. We've got to create more equality there. The more money, and this is their money, it's not the government's money. I want to allow working parents to keep more of their tax money so they can spend it on child care, on saving for college, on Florida prepaid, on backpacks, on a new computer for school, on food. You know, we tell people feed your children healthy food. Well, healthy food is expensive. It's a lot more expensive than something out of a bag. And that's what we want people to do, right? So all that, it sounds kind of simplistic, but that's the real life challenges facing our families. I have a graph, I don't have it with me, but it basically looks like this. The blue line is the cost of raising children. It goes straight up. The red line is the child tax credit. It's flat. We've got to close that gap.
And the Senate and House go back to work September 5th, right after Labor Day. They're back into Washington, D.C. Thank you, Senator Rubio. Jacksonville City Council got started working on the $1.2 billion budget request by Mayor Lenny Curry. Off the bat this week, they heard from the Sheriff's Office. They received the lion's share of the city budget, by the way. And already we know that the mayor wants an additional 100 new officers for the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. Fire Department also making presentations to council for JFRD. There's a call for 73 new positions and some new equipment in there as well. The budget hearings will run through the end of this month and then have the full council voting on it near the end of September. All right, so This Week in Jacksonville airs each Sunday morning at this time. You know it, you plan on it, and we're happy about that. Next week, we've got a panel together to talk about consolidation 50 years later. Jacksonville's response to corruption, failing schools, exploding property taxes, and a financial crisis for the city at the time. But we're working to bring you a look at what was promised, what has worked, and where that plan has fallen short. I'm Kent Justice. Thanks for watching on air on Channel 4 and online at news4jax.com.
Now, more than ever before, more people get their news from News 4 Jax, Jacksonville's #1 source for local news.